Welcome to Remarkable. We are broadcasting the stories and journeys of Sri Lankans driving technological innovation around the world. Sri Lanka is known all over the world for four T's, that's tsunami, tea, tourism, and terrorism. But we believe there's a fifth T, and that's reshaping Sri Lanka, and that's technology. So through Remarkable, we aim to unearth, inspire, and connect these tech entrepreneurs driving Sri Lanka forward.
Hi everyone, my name is Chalinda and I'm coming to you from sunny Sri Lanka.
Hi, my name is Buddhima. I'm based in Austin, Texas, in the US.
Hi, I'm Shad and I'm based here in Singapore. And welcome to our first episode. We have Urmila with us, who co-founded Mintpay, a cutting-edge financial technology company they've been leading together since 2020. So to kick things off, Urmila, how about you give us a bit of an introduction, tell us who you are, and why do you do what you do?
All right, thanks, Shad. Thanks for the introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Urmila. I'm the co-founder of Mintpay, as Shad introduced. So Mintpay is a buy now, pay later payment platform that allows consumers to spread the cost of their purchase into interest-free installments using their debit or credit card. So in an emerging market like Sri Lanka, like the credit card penetration is very low. It's in fact 55%. And this is not just in Sri Lanka, but in South Asia in general, it's like that. So there's the flexibility that you get from using a credit card is not really there for debit card users, which is the larger market audience. And if you see the younger generation, the millennials and the Gen Zs, they don't want to get debit credit card, and because they have their reservations about credit card, and also they lack the the credit history that is required to obtain a credit card. So if you actually look at it, all this is because the financial ecosystem in an emerging market like Sri Lanka or South Asia, it's still very traditional, and it is not really it's not suitable for it has not evolved rather to meet the needs of the younger generation of consumers. So that's where we come in as like where we have reimagined how the credit assessment can be done. So that's pretty much what we do.
Yeah, just want to jump in. I mean, how did you come up with this? I know you and Cooks both, because both of you all, you studied at Monash, so you lived overseas, you came back to Sri Lanka. How did this whole thing, come about, and why the focus on Gen Zs?
Well, I would say millennials and the Gen Zs, because I'm millennial, I'm Gen Z. But to walk you through how Mintpay started, so it actually started, to be honest, it started with my co-founder, Cooks. So, we've known each other since school days, and we went to uni together. We worked together in the same organization. That's coincidentally the first, workplace for us. None of this was planned. Like we were together, but like we weren't really planning to do everything together. It just happened. So our first job, like we were both technology entrepreneurs for 10 years. So essentially what we are supposed to do is identify opportunities in different markets, the consumer needs, and come up with technologies that would, address those needs, right? So that's basically, it's a startup. So, there we learned a lot about startup, how to identify opportunity, how to, come up with the MVP, how to, test it, get the feedback and, craft it, and how to go to market kind of thing. So he was 2018, I believe. He was, so there was one technology that he was working on, which is actually patent pending. And he was at the 50th Consumer Electronics Show at Las Vegas, where he saw all these different technologies, and he was like, okay, you know what, this marks the end of my corporate career. I'm going to do something like this, because he's a person who he's very tech-wise, like he's very hands-on, like he just wants to do something different. compared to what is there. And yeah, so it to be honest, Mintpay, it originated from Vegas. That's where he got the idea.
Nice.
And then we came across this concept of buy now, pay later. It was trending. It was just starting off. I still remember we were looking at Klarna, and they had just onboarded Snoop Dogg, where they were doing this campaign like Smooth Klarna, Be Smooth campaign with him. And then at that time, like literally nobody knew about Klarna, nobody knew about Afterpay. And then we really dug deep into it, and we tried to see how this can work in a market, in an emerging market, and what needs to be done. And so as engineers, it was easier for us to identify the problem and like, how do you bring this concept to a different market, and what needs to be done? I guess that's our strength. So, and then we went through the phase of like immature entrepreneurs where we were like, I'll put together a deck and present it. Someone got to put the money in kind of thing. And, and then after that, we realized, you know what, that's not how it's going to happen. You need to have a product. You can't have a concept and raise funds. So, yeah, so we kept on like pitching it to a lot of people, which really helped us craft the business model as well as the technology, and finally we launched it bootstrap in 2020.
So that's what led to the product launching and getting your first customers. Yeah. Okay.
It was an MVP. Like both of us worked together on the product.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing is like a lot of people think like just because you are a computer systems engineer or like or you are an engineer, like you should be able to build a product, but that's not true. Like we would have like Cook especially because he quit the job, and I was like, you know what, at some point when we have to launch the product, like someone needs to fund it, so I'm going to hold on to my job while I do this. So I was funding it from my monthly salary I would get. And he had to do like so many different courses because he did a job of like more than 5 engineers that would do to come up with the MVP.
Okay.
And
nice.
Then we launched it, and getting the first customer was difficult. First merchant was extremely difficult because who's going to believe like, oh, we are going to drive you sales in exchange for 8%.
I wanted to ask that as well because it's a chicken and egg. Did the customer come first or the merchant come first?
The merchant came first.
Okay.
And what was that like, the first merchant? Tell us about that, since you said it was pretty hard to convince them.
The first merchant, I still tell them like, you know what, whatever happens, like any day we would always honor you, because without them, Mintpay would not have come to life. Because for the longest time, right now you should see our store directory, it has over 600 merchants, but for like good 3 months, we had like just one merchant that was listed. And we were trying to get customers to transact, and so there's always the first merchant who believed in you to kind of,
so
take
it
that
was
step.
Purely out of belief of the product, or was there some way that you convinced them?
Yeah. I mean, so that merchant's, the owner's brother was Cook's friend, so we were able to kind of convince them to come aboard. But the thing is, like, we knew we had a lot of friends who had like retail stores, right? But still, it was really hard. Like, you wouldn't really believe it, right? Like, okay, because we were the first to introduce this into the market, so like it was a concept that nobody knew about. Right? So that was really difficult, and then getting like more and more merchants. Like, after a while, it was easy.
Cool. I think, I think one of the questions I want to go back to was the motivation. So I think that kind of connects a lot of things that you talked about. I mean, initially we said that ideas can just be ideas, but actually bringing it to life is a challenge. Right? That's one part of it, and the second part is finding your first merchant and then finding a second and third. So. And you said that it took 3 months with just one merchant on board. Most people would probably give up at that stage. What kept you going?
Okay, so to be honest, So throughout, we used to, I think Chalinda would remember, like we were there at every single investor presentation. So because the concept was so new and not a lot of people knew about like what buy now pay later was, the first response that we get is that this is not going to work for Sri Lanka. So I don't know, interestingly, or like, so Cooks and I, we both are the type of persons like, if you say this can't happen, that's when you want to do it. So even the merchants to everyone, they said, no, this is not going to work. And then that kind of really drove us to do it. And we were like, no, we are going to prove it. So many merchants we used to speak to, and then people would be like, no, for a payment gateway, you expect us to pay so much, right? And nobody's going to really sign up with you. And they're like, okay, you wait and see, I'm going to get someone, kind of, right? So I guess that's the one that was really driving us. Yeah.
So stubbornness was a virtue.
Say no, I guess we haven't really stubborn before, to be honest.
Yeah. And digging a little deeper on that, why did you guys pick up the Mintpay idea? Were there other ideas? Because you said, Cooks went to CES, came back and would have seen like a ton of ideas. Why this idea?
Yeah, so Mintpay idea itself is because getting our first credit card was not easy, to be honest. Even though we were working at MAS, but anyway, we were like fresh off uni at that time, 2017, right? So it was really difficult, and like when we came up with this concept, like when we came across this concept, we were like, okay, this literally answers the questions, like it actually solves the problem that we were facing at that time. Right. And also another thing was that because a lot of people, like if you work in a corporate or like mostly corporate, where when you encounter a lot of like, the millennials, the young generation people, like you understand how their financial, like what do they know about like, building your credit, like financial literacy, they don't know it, right? But if there's another way where they can learn it, like this teaches them, right? Like all our customers now, they know, like, if they fulfill their obligation, it's just going to increase, their limit is going to increase. If they don't, then it's going to reduce, right? So it's another way to like educate the market as well.
Okay, interesting.
Cool.
Okay, I think before we jump into a couple of these things, why don't you just give us a overview of the current state of the business? You started in 2020. Where are you now? In terms of your growth. What have been the key wins in the last? Because 2020, a lot of people know for a very different reason, or will remember 2020 for a different reason, right? COVID, pandemic, and lockdowns and whatnot. So that wouldn't have been easy.
Yeah. So 2020, so we launched it in the Q4, the latter part of 2020, and I still remember the month of December. So we launched it in September, around September time, and December we were like, okay, finally, like it's the seasonal time, and like we had the merchant also. We were like, let's do like just boost stuff on Instagram to see if we can get some customers. And I still remember for that month, we would have generated like, I think 200,000. And like, we were so excited. We were like, oh my God, the first month with like 6-digit numbers. And like, we were a bootstrap, so 200,000 was like great. And the following year, by March, and like, so December was the best time. And then after December, we managed to get Sparsi on, so that was one of the first big wins actually. And so after that, like the first during the New Year time, I still remember because it was my niece's birthday, and we were like, oh, we finally did like 1 million, the first 1 million. So that was like a huge milestone for us. And then now it's like 1 million is like before you wake up, it's just there kind of thing. But that time it was really exciting. And then with that, we got more and more merchants. And then people were really picking up, like people were able to understand it. And 2021 was like a great year for us. Like we used to tell all the investors, we were like, oh my God, like we grew like, so much. Now we are generating like millions a month kind of thing. And then, so 2021 was like a big year for us to what we knew it at that time. And then 2022, when we closed it, it was like 6x of what 2021 was. And now, like, 50% of that we've already done for the year. 50% of 2022 revenue we've already surpassed it this year. So now it's
Nice.
It's been exponential, to be honest.
Nice.
What are your like unit economics like? How do you actually make money? And is the company profitable, or is it on the path to be profitable? What's that like? Whatever you can share with us.
Yeah, well, last quarter we became profitable.
Nice.
Q1 2023. So,
Congratulations.
thank you. So until then we were focusing on growth, and last quarter we became profitable. So as BNPL, so there are we have 5 different business models, revenue models. So the primary one is the BNPL. That's the commission that we charge the merchants for every sale that is done through Mintpay. And the other one is the Mintpay ads, where the merchants can, publish their promotions or the banner spaces, which we rent out to the merchants. And the white labeling and the credit decisioning, these are the 2 other business revenue models that we are going to unlock. We are working on the white labeling at the moment. So as the platform becomes more mature, like there are different revenue models that can come from this.
Okay.
How do you manage competition? How do you manage, because this is something new, you're the first to do it, or at least one of the pioneers in this area, but how do you stay relevant in the market, and how do you stay relevant with your customers when there's always that fear of competition can always come in, maybe a bigger player can come in? How do you stay ahead of the curve in that kind of scenario?
Our focus from day one has always been the customer experience, the user journey, the customer experience, and this is for the merchants and the customers alike, right? So we ensure that we attend to the customer any queries as soon as possible, and even in terms of in terms of the platform or the customer experience, like we have ensured the tech is up to par, because the entire thing comes down to tech, right? And that is our strength. That's our big differentiating factor. And also another thing for a buy now pay later in an emerging market, a thing that people need to understand is that this is a platform, especially our decisioning engine, that was tested during COVID and the economic crisis, right? You can come up with the technology, but you can't have that kind of data what our system has gone through. So this is our biggest, strength at this point. And from this point onwards, it has gone through over the past 2 plus years. There are so many different economic and the market condition that this platform has been tested through.
Entrepreneurs talk about that point where you cross the chasm, right? Like going from early product market fit to exponential growth. There's that middle point where
basically where you're pushing something and something's so the market is now pulling you. Maybe is that something you guys feel? Or where would you lie in the Tushad's question on the product market fit?
Okay, so the product market fit, I know the COVID, the lockdowns through the economic crisis, it has quite affected a lot of and especially startups it would ideally affect. But for us, we were able to like spin that around, and like especially during the lockdown, we were able to like, I know your retail would have slowed down, and this is like the right time, and like people were just jumping on it. Okay, we'll just take that bet and see, right? So 2021, that's how we were able to acquire a lot of merchants. And then afterwards, like with the economic crisis, like it was just like people were just pushed to like, spread their cost, right? So it was a product that really like the whatever that happened over the last 2 years really helped us to like push it to the market, I would say. So for us, it worked out the other way around.
Question arises obviously when it comes to flexible payments and breaking down payments into smaller chunks, whether that could potentially create irresponsible financial habits.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of balance that, like providing an opportunity for people to actually afford things, but at the same time ensuring that they don't kind of go overboard and overdo it?
Yeah, correct. Certainly, because I think buy now, pay later, if it is not like, if it is not done correctly, like it can put people into debt. So what we do is like, and this is something that has been in our head since like day one. And one thing that we ensured, or we wanted to make sure that we do is like, advocate on the responsible spending. So how we do that is that if you're a first-time customer, there's a maximum limit, like 5,000 is the maximum limit that is given to you, right? Because 5,000 is something like, anyone who's working is able to afford, right? And 5,000 split into two, like that's 2,500 over the next 2 months. That's something that someone can afford. And then like the core of the entire platform is the decisioning engine that basically assesses a customer's, the capacity to repay and their willingness to repay, right? So taking many different data points such as where they're purchasing or at what time they enroll to the system, and at what circumstances they enroll into the system. Based on that, the system determines how your spending limit or your split limit, should be increased to. So this we do it to ensure that people don't spiral into debt.
Have you had any situations where people have defaulted but they've come back and settled as well? Or if so,
many times. There are some.
Yeah, how often does that happen?
Yeah. So there are customers. That kind of happens on daily basis, even I would say. There are some customers who would ask, and we also do have some hardship policies. Like if someone is going through really hard times, then we tell them, okay, we can discuss different repayment options. But we do have there are customers who come back and pay a couple of months later even. But we do send reminders ahead of time to customers to ensure that they don't go into, so that they can make the funds available on the card, so we can do the auto capturing.
A question on the engine that you mentioned. So is it all based on data that you guys are collecting through customers interacting with Mintpay, or are you also pulling in information from somewhere else, like banks or something? Okay.
No, we don't. We don't pull anything outside of Mintpay system. It's basically how you interact with the system, how your repayment behavior is. So basically, the decisioning engine is supposed to understand if this customer has the capacity, this X amount of capacity to pay, and is he willing to repay? Because we can't eliminate the fraudsters, right? So these two, both of these are taken into account before we allow them into the system.
Has fraud been a problem?
The system anyway kind of detects certain there are, I don't want to divulge what exactly we capture, but certain things when a customer inputs at the point of registering itself, the system can determine if he's trying to do fraud or not.
Just curious about credit scoring. So does it translate? Can users of Mintpay at some point show their good behavior on Mintpay and use that for something else? Is that something you guys think
Well,
about?
that's where we would ideally like to see Sri Lanka going,
Yeah.
because
Mm-hmm.
right now, crib is kind of the only thing that, uh, the banks or financial institutions refer to before, lending, right? So
Okay.
eventually, I hope that, this can be of greater use for the financial sector in Sri Lanka.
How was fundraising for you? Because you mentioned it's I mean, obviously, I've met you through that as well, but just for everybody else to know, was it challenging? Because it's a new concept that you're kind of trying to introduce, even for the investors. And B,
Yeah.
what are the other challenges that you faced in doing that?
Interestingly, like the initial investors who like individual angel investors who reached out were they were familiar with the concept of buy now pay later because they were outside Sri Lanka. They're non-residents. So they were familiar and they were curious how this would make how it would be in a market like Sri Lanka. So that kind of really helped. And yeah, I guess the Sri Lankan investors, I would say, were the hardest because they couldn't really wrap their head around and they were very risk averse. And they saw this as a very high risk kind of a business model. But we tried to explain it, why this is not like how we've been performing, right? Like we don't have like a net loss, like it like our losses are very low because of the decisioning engine, and that in fact is the differentiating factor, right? Because we are not going down the same path of the traditional credit scoring; it's a different one. So it was hard for some to understand, but like as the business was moving, and once we were able to show some traction, it was a little bit easy. So I guess even for us
Easy.
that was a learning because the typical American dream would be like America, the Silicon Valley dream is to with the concept raise money and then do it, right? But here, like you have to show some traction and then use it. So that is the only difference.
What's next for Mintpay? What's your next 12 to 18 months? What's that BHAG that you're planning for the rest of you? You said that you already done 50% of the revenue of previous year. What's the big BHAG for Mintpay?
When we launched it, like we were heavily concentrated in the fashion and with the beauty segment. Now we are trying to diversify into like food, the dining, and the travel and many others, the lifestyle kind of sectors as well. We also unlocked another business model, which is Mintpay Ads, where the merchants can directly target the customers through the Mintpay store directory, which we launched it in February this year. And we are also actively looking at, because white labeling the entire technology platform, which is built in-house, and it can be of greater value to the financial institutions, banks, and even telcos, right? So that will be a SaaS white labeling of the platform, and this is something that we recently launched, and we are in conversation with a few banks and telcos in Southeast Asia. Yeah. We are also looking at launching in Bangladesh. So that's also in the progress.
Like, tell us about your team today and what's the culture like as you guys go after, it sounds like a lot of progress, lots of amazing work coming ahead. What does that look like and how do you run your team and who's your team right now?
So we have a team of 16 people right now. I guess it stops at 31. That's the highest or that's the oldest in the company.
Okay.
It's a very young team, and like they're very motivated. Thing is, like when we were raising fund at each stage of this entrepreneurial journey, like we've gone through different phases, and when we raised the funds, like we didn't know like how difficult it is going to be. How difficult it's going to be to build a team, build a culture around it, things like that, right? So we had to learn, but fortunately we have a great team. They are very, the thing is, like, for a startup like Mintpay, you need to get people, like-minded people. They need to be motivated. They need to know what to do next. And you need to give them certain level of autonomy as well to, explore different things. So the team is very young, and they're very, very, they think differently. In fact, they are the ones who sometimes give different ideas for us to execute. And it's great. They are now driving the merchant acquisitions to marketing to tech building and everything. So great team.
So, Urmila, you said Cooks or Cookraj obviously was a very important part of the business, and you obviously said that you guys have been together throughout for such a long time, and currently, if I'm not mistaken, are you guys engaged right now?
Engaged.
Cool. So how is that experience like? I mean, a lot of people probably are quite curious because I know that me and my wife, there's no way we could probably work on a venture together. We'll probably drive ourselves nuts. But how do you guys manage that? How do you have a barrier or what's work life versus what's personal life? How do you make sure that those two worlds don't kind of creep? And how is that whole experience like?
I'm not gonna lie about driving each other crazy during work. I mean, that's kind of given.
Yeah.
Both of us have different working styles. I would say he's let's just do it. I kind of want to take time and absorb and before I make the decision. The best part is that because we are such, sometimes when he pulls this way, I pull this way, so we land in the right center kind of thing. So that has really helped the business. Sometimes we really have to. We tell ourselves that we are going to have just no talk about work, but somehow something really comes up because we have a lot of work friends also, so it's really, really difficult to kind of have that barrier, but we try not to. The thing is, when we started off, it's a lot of these decisions also, it happens when we are just casually talking. So now we have kind of set aside, okay, during this time, we don't talk about anything serious, probably something casual about work, but it's inevitable, to be honest.
Would you recommend other couples also try this out?
I would say it really depends. You need to know because as a co-founder and as your spouse, I think it's as your partner, it's two different things, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to know if you may get along as a partner, but you may not really get along as a co-founder. So you need to know the other person's the other side. I wouldn't blindly tell an answer you just go ahead kind of thing, because you really need to understand. I don't want to put anyone in trouble.
Any surprises or non-obvious things that you learned along the way? Hit you in the face? The biggest punch that you had to take?
Yet. I don't know. The thing is, like I said, any big punch, I probably wouldn't realize it. We would have been no, we are just going to prove this could happen.
True.
Right?
So, how have things like gender, age, ethnicity, etc., gotten in the way of building your company? Or also has it helped in any way?
I mean, to be honest, I'd be lying if I say that when the first few meetings I used to go to, I was not looked down upon because I was a woman and it was a tech product. I'm definitely, I know quite a bit of people who kind of assumed that I didn't know tech. And interestingly, they were the non-tech people, a lot of it. And so I was you know what, it's something that I guess as a woman in tech anyway, something that you're immune to. But I mean, for me, it doesn't matter what other people think. But age, yes, definitely. So both of us in the 20s, when we launched it. It was like a lot of people used to think, another reason for quite a few people to say, this wouldn't work, and we didn't know what we were talking about because they thought like, oh, okay, because of the age, like they're immature kind of thing. Which obviously, these are the things that you anyway come across, but it's up to you to like kind of, prove them wrong.
Yeah. How do you take care of yourself through all of this? So there's a lot going on. How do you kind of keep the momentum going, and what's the self-care perspective?
So when something goes bad, not just me, but anyway, both of us, myself and Chris, we think of like, I don't know if we are spending too much time on tech, but we are like debugging, like how to solve that problem as opposed to, worry about it. So we're constantly like, trying to see like what is the root cause analysis. Let me put it that way. We try to find that and try to see how we can fix it. So we don't get like bummed out like, oh my God, this didn't happen. We talk about it, and even if we do, like, it's like, fortunately, like over the past 2 years, like it has been like, okay, the other person is not bummed out, so you can like kind of take care of the other one kind of thing.
Okay.
So
I think that's one of the good things.
Yeah.
That might be a good thing about being a couple, right? Because unlike other co-founders, you guys can be a lot more open and kind of, share what you guys are going through, and then, each person kind of takes care of the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's definitely a plus.
Cool. So now we move on to the rapid fire questions. And this is a list of questions that we also want to ask all of our participants and interviewees on the podcast. So they're just 3 questions, so it's not complicated. The first one is, what's a piece of content that left a major mark on you, really moved you, inspired you?
So it'll be what Cooks always says. Nobody cares how many hours Usain Bolt or Michael Phelps trained. Ultimately, if they win it or not is what matters.
What's a widely accepted norm that you disagree with?
This is something I encountered a lot when I was in school and as well as in uni, that women are not good in maths. I think it's changing now, but people do think that. I know a lot of people think that.
Cool. The last question is, what's something that people don't know about you or surprised to find out about you?
That I'm an introvert. I think people would be surprised to find out. I think, to be wrong.
Cool. Thanks so much, Urmila, for those rapid fire questions. Maybe
Can I
move
change
on
the answer
to
for the second one? What was the question again?
What's a widely accepted norm that you disagree with?
That women gossip more than men.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
One thing, is there anything that, you want to give as a message to any of our listeners? What would that be? And it can be entrepreneurs, it can be, people, Sri Lankans who are living overseas. What would that message be?
Anybody really. We're not
Anyone,
limiting who watches this.
Opportunities won't come like knocking at your door. It's up to you to go and find the opportunities. And it's irrelevant whether you're in Sri Lanka or, some may think that, in a different, if you were born in a different country, things would have been different. But, it's up to you to create the opportunity. And you can do anything, wonders, wherever you are, if you have a way for it.
Brilliant. Love it.
Well said.
Well said. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you have a very busy schedule, and for joining and kind of sharing your stories and taking us through this whole entrepreneurial roller coaster that you're kind of been on. And thank you being our first guest, and wishing you all the very best, you and Cooks, with the business as well as your personal life as well.